Hope you're well today. I'm just going to tell you a bit about my life story, the reason why I wrote these books. During COVID, I had a lot of time to think about my own life story and why I navigated the way I thought was the right way, because we grew up in a very traditional home and we are Christian. And I always thought that if you don't do the right thing, God's gonna, open the sky and come down and punish you. And so I had a fear of that, always doing the right thing. So I never really navigated my emotions as such, or the choices that I made. I didn't have emotional intelligence to actually navigate all my decision making at the time. But yes, my journey started as a young baby. At 6 months, I contracted measles and had asthma. And then it just spiraled from there, where I had acute asthma and I nearly died a few times. My parents had the church pray over me, and I recovered. I outgrew it at about 12. But, straight after my asthma, I had to navigate school and get into a mainstream school. That was also difficult because I was still recovering from illness, and eventually my schoolwork picked up and I became settled. And then in about, standard, those standards, so standard five, my father said to us, we are moving, because he always wanted to farm and he always wanted a small holding. So he rented a small holding, and we had cows and chickens and every animal under the sun you could name it. And although it was paradise, it was hard for my mom and I to leave city life behind. And I was also, close to my grandmother. And so, yet again, I had to navigate another community, another society. And being a sensitive child, it was quite intimidating. And obviously, the bullies come along with that. So, then your self esteem gets a bit broken down. And your mother's going through a hard time trying to navigate her life. You're going through a hard time. So, yes, I became emotionally independent and started making my own choices, whether they were good or bad. And being a normal teenager at 17, I also, lived with my sister, went to college, had my first boyfriend. And we were both just starting out on our journeys. And then the fateful day came when he had a motorbike accident. So, yet again, I was left in pieces, and we were actually planning marriage together and having children. And it didn't happen that way. So I had to come back to the small holding. And yes, and then eventually my dad had to go away and work, because he worked on a bridge and he'd worked on tall buildings. So he did all the sling work on these heavy um, construction sites. And my dad invited a farmer to come and look after my mother and I. And yeah, and that's how I met my first husband. And we got married, and we had two beautiful daughters. And then at about, you know, after 15 years of having such a honeymoon with my babies, it was beautiful, I'm telling you. I treasure every memory, every moment we had. I really do. And I wanted children, I love them to bits. And they've become two grown up, well educated, well rounded children. But yes, after my husband and I got divorced, and I did ask for the divorce because I felt at that time I'm going through my own changes, and I had my own trauma that I never dealt with in the past, you know. So I had to navigate and make choices, and hard choices. So I left the two daughters behind with my husband for a while I was trying to pick up the pieces of my emotional vulnerability. And so I went from bad to worse, and in different relationships, and it didn't work. And I thought, yo, why am I going through all of this? Yes, my working life was okay. I worked in the wellness industry, the gym industry. I then went on to the pharmacy industry. So it was all based around wellness. So I've always had an interest in neuroscience and how we overcome our problems in life. And being separated from your family is very hard. And your friends always tell you, your children will come back to you, they will forgive you for the past. And it does happen, but because we are a very diverse family, it happens in small increments. And you have to navigate it and go through the pain. And yes, and that's after COVID, during COVID when we were in lockdown, I did a counseling course. And I went into education as well. So I did my diploma in education, and it really makes you introspect your own life and why you made choices you did, whether good or bad, or you know, you were on this path and you went off the life path, and why? Did you want something better? Did you want growth? Did you want change? You know, and so that's what happened. And yes, so then after my dad's death, because my dad had stage 5 cancer and there was nothing they could do, so we had, you know, maybe a month. It was in a month it went from being okay to very bad, and then he died in his bed. So we you know, doctored him, nursed him, and it was really a privilege to be able to do that. It was also a very spiritual experience. You know, I experienced things around my dad's death that are very special to me. That you know, so we all have our different experiences. And I treasure that, and I treasure the memories. My dad also appeared to me in my dreams, and I had a vision of him walking in a green field in white cloth and with a stick. And then, yes, and the one morning in my dream, he appeared to me and hugged me and said, "I love you." And it felt like sunshine just melting into my body. It was a fantastic experience. Yes, my daughter is also an author. My youngest daughter is also an author. Um, yes, and she was also diagnosed as a, you know, being a autistic adult, which we didn't know at the time, but her and I were relieved for finding that out. And my oldest daughter works as a teacher, so we all actually in the teaching industry. We've got in our family, there's educators. So we all care about humanity. We care about small children. We care about adults. But we also went through our own trials and tribulations as a family, and we had to navigate. And I had to be my own therapist, my own healer. I had to figure out why, as a woman, I wanted to, after 15 years, go through a divorce, go through the pain of separation. But I think I still had unresolved trauma, and that's maybe why I did it, you know, because I needed space and time to become the person I am today. So all that pain I navigated helped me really put myself out there. I mean, I find it difficult to speak in front of people, and I'm now making myself used to it after being an educator to toddlers, and I'd like to educate adults that are going through a bad time, stressful time, and separations from children, separations from family. It will get better. Just navigate it, just communicate, just self-care, love yourself. I didn't always love myself. I didn't have high self-esteem, but it doesn't matter. You can get there. So thanks for listening.